This is Noel Professor Richards, inviting you to join me every Saturday night at 8 p.m. for Men Talk. We will talk about how to live, how to love, and how to lead. It's 1.5 hours of men talking about all the things that men talk about. So don't miss it. It's Men Talk every Saturday at 8 p.m. on Isaac The Promise Facebook page, FBN TV, and Isaac 98.1 FM, The Promise. Last on Men Talk, we highlighted some of the qualities and attributes that we men should look for in a partner. This Saturday, we continue the discussion on this all-important question. So join me, Noel Professor Richards, George Thomas, and our returning guest, Riquen Allen, as he provides some further insight into the topic. It's Men Talk, Saturday, 5th March, 8 p.m. on FBN TV, Isaac The Promise Facebook page, and Isaac 98.1 FM, The Promise, sponsored in part by Anaya Tony, the Feet Lady.
Hello.
Hey Jack, you missed the meeting yesterday, boy. What happened?
Andre, I was under some pressure, boy. Well, you know, Uncle have diabetes, high blood pressure, and poor circulation. He couldn't even walk properly yesterday, so I took him to the Feet Lady, boy, Dr. Anaya Tony. And let me tell you something, when they're done with him, he feels so good. You know the man forget he walking stick by them. When I go back for the next session, we'll get back, man.
I must send her number to my cousin. She have a pinched nerve, lupus. And I think she uncle got a stroke, you know. I had to see about my back pain too.
Well, Andre, what are you waiting for? Take these numbers down one time. 360-5166 and 478-7416. Dr. Anaya Tony, boy, the Feet Lady from Anaya Health and Wellness Center. You can't go wrong.
Good evening, Professor.
Good evening to you, Adesola. Good evening to Trinidad, Tobago, and wherever else you're listening to us on this frequency. Remember, we are live on Isaac 90.1 FM. We are also on Facebook, that's Isaac The Promise. And we are also on YouTube, that's FBN TV. And we want to welcome you to Men Talk every Saturday at this time, 8 o'clock to 9:30. We meet as men to deal with some of the things that men deal with, things that men talk about. We talk in a frank and open manner about things that matters of the heart, matters of everything. And we try to create an atmosphere and an environment for men to feel free to share, to feel free to talk, because we know history has shown that men need some encouragement to talk. Ladies, on the other hand, are different. It's free. It's easier for them to talk about matters of their heart and any matter, as a matter of fact. But for men, we have to create just that right environment. That's why you find us in bars and barber shops and other places that men gather. That's where we talk, because we feel that there's a kindred spirit. There are other men around who would understand us and who are probably experiencing the things that we're experiencing. So with that kindred spirit, we feel free to talk. And because of that, we have created this program so that men would feel free to express themselves, to empty themselves of what they feel inside, what they have inside. Then you just feel free to talk. And for that reason, the name of the program is Men Talk. So we encourage men to talk. And for that reason, because it's an interactive program, we only allow men to talk on this program. Because it's a program really geared to get men to talk. And if we open, the forum, open the lines for women to talk, it's going to be defeating the purpose of the program. So we try to keep it the way we intended to be, so that men would be encouraged to talk and create that atmosphere and that environment. However, sir, over the years, we have found that women, they have a lot to contribute, and sometimes we men get it wrong. Even talking among ourselves, we get it wrong. There are sometimes blind spots. There are things that we don't know and understand, and we need a female perspective. So ladies, it also gives you an opportunity to be a part of the program, but not to talk. We allow you to send in a text message to our WhatsApp number, and I'll give you the number straight away. It's 275-1981, 275-1981. Ladies, write that number down. And anytime during the program, you can WhatsApp us, and we're going to ask Adesola to monitor that, so that any comment or question by the ladies, we'll be able to address it straight away. But men, because we want to encourage you to talk, we have numbers for you to call in. So if perhaps you're new to the program or new to the frequency, well, men, somewhere along the line, we will stop and we will ask you to call in, share your thoughts, ask your questions, agree, disagree, do that, with love. However, we ask, please. And, so it's an interactive program. We want interaction from the men. We really want you to talk. We want you to say what's on your heart and mind. We can learn from you. We try to teach you, but we can learn from you as well. And our watchwords or our key words, for those of you looking, you may not be able to see it behind me. I can move a little bit. It's live, love, and lead. We want to teach you how to live, how to love, and how to lead. These three things men ought to know. And so we are saying that even though we are here to share with you, we want you to share with us. And there are many of you out there with your own story, with your own experiences that we can learn from. So men, we encourage you. I will give you the numbers when it's time to call in, because I don't want you to start calling in just yet. So I'll give you the numbers. But anywhere along the line, and men, you too can utilize the WhatsApp number to send in a text to us, and that is 275-1981. Ladies, when you send it in your text message, please do not send a voice note. Please do not send a voice note. Send a text message. This is a WhatsApp number, 275-1981, ladies. So you send a WhatsApp number to a WhatsApp message, a text message to that number, and we'll address it, and we will respond to it. So it's time to get the ball rolling, and with me tonight, I'm hoping they're on. I can't see, but I trust that they are. George Thomas, and I have to call him my co-host now, because he's here every week with us. So I have to, upgrade him, not just a guest host, but my co-host. George, are you there? Good evening and welcome.
Glory to God. I am here. Good evening, Professor. Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Once again, it is truly a pleasure to be here on Men Talk, broadcasting loud from 98.1 FM.
Oh, yes. And don't forget FBN TV and Isaac, the Promise Facebook page. Because, folks,
Absolutely.
you can not only hear us, but you can see us as well, if you wish to. And you can also tell your friends and family abroad, wherever they are in the world, that they can tune in. We are live on the World Wide Web on FBN TV and Isaac, the Promise Facebook page. Okay? So, we also have our returning guest. Riquen has been here with us for the past couple of weeks. First of all, just as a guest observing, and then we had him as our main guest last week, and we were not finished with the conversation, so we have invited him to come back this week to share with us. And before I introduce, bring him on, let me just say thank you to all those who took part in the men's revival. Well, we had 3 days of revival.
Amen.
We had the youths, we had the men, and we had the women. It was really impacting, really, really impacting. And I want to say special thanks to those who took part in the men's revival. We had Bishop Don Hamilton, we had Minister Dexter Bellot, counseling psychologist, Pastor Roger Holder, Apostle Ian Cummings. Those were our 4 speakers. We want to say thank you so much. We also want to say thank you to Apostle Vernon Duncan. He was one of our panelists. Thank you so much. And I don't know how to describe him, and he's been here at the beginning of since we began Men Talk, and he has contributed so much, so much to Men Talk and to FBN, because he was part of the planning committee, the man who did so much behind the scenes. I'm talking about Huey Coffey. We salute you, sir, if I may salute physically. We salute you, Huey. Thank you so much for your input.
Hallelujah.
Thank you for so much. Not just for the revival, but for Men Talk on a whole. But he was really key and instrumental in what we did for Revival 2022. So Huey, thank you so much. God richly bless you. And to everyone else, those behind the scenes, Vince Lejar, Tiffany, Raymond, who else is behind the scene? Maria, that's DJ Mickey's wife. And there were others. Let me not start because I didn't. I should have written down the names so that I will call everybody's name. Adelia. Thank you so much to every single one of you who made Revival 2022 what it was, the success that it is. We are sure lives were touched. We are sure I can smell it, taste it, see it in the spirit that people gave their hearts and lives to the Lord. And so we say thank you, and we thank God for blessing us with a revival. So thank you so much, especially to the men. Blessings to every single one of you. And I hope that I didn't leave anybody out. If I did, my apologies. I'm just speaking on the top of my head right now. So I'm sure if I left anybody out, maybe sometime before the end of this program, I'll be able to remember you and acknowledge you. Because we all need acknowledgement. And I want to say thank you so much to every single one of you. So let's get down to what we're going to discuss tonight. Last week, we started discussing what are the qualities that we look for in a partner, what are the characteristics, what are the values, what are the things we look for as a man, what should I look for? Because we have found that a lot of men, they end up in relationships and in marriages that are not healthy for either party. They look for, they probably don't know what to look for, and it's only after when they get involved or they say I do, then they realize, hey, this is not what I wanted. This is not who I wanted. So we want to help men to look at the qualities, what kind of woman you should desire. And our guest, returning guest, Mr. Riquen Allen, took us through our paces last week. We're gonna, I want to invite Riquen now. Thank you so much. Welcome once again to Men Talk on this station. Riquen Allen, thank you. Let me say thank you in advance and thank you for last week. Good evening, sir, and welcome.
Good evening to you, Professor. Good evening, George. Let me congratulate you on your promotion to co-host status.
Glory to
God. We got to celebrate each other, right?
Of course, of course.
And good evening to Trinidad and Tobago and whoever else is listening across the globe.
Yes, wonderful. Riquen, one of the things we didn't do last week, I don't remember us doing it, is really finding out who you are. I don't think you introduced yourself. I don't think we introduced you adequately. So before we continue, just tell us a little bit about who Riquen Allen is, please.
All right, so Riquen Allen is a young man in his 40s.
You sure not 20s? You sure?
Well, I would take that as a compliment. Thank you so much.
It is.
Yeah.
Riquen Allen is a father of 5 children.
Well, it can be the 20s. All right. Okay, I understand.
The Lord has been good. He has been gracious. So my quiver is full. I have a handful. And 4 daughters and 1 son. And fatherhood has not been easy, but you know what? At the end of the day, it's worth it. I say that I am not perfect, and my children are not perfect. But because it was God's idea to put us together, we are perfect for each other.
Amen.
And that is something I want to encourage every family, because sometimes we tend to focus on the imperfections. But if God, in his wisdom, allowed you to father or as a mother to give birth to your children, then his idea is a good idea, all right? And so we have to embrace the fact that, listen, whatever God does is good. And so we need to treat each other that way. And so our children are perfect for us. Our parents are perfect for us. Even though, you know, on both sides we may mess up sometimes, but it's important that we have the right perception and perspective. So, yes, I don't know if there's anything else. I mean, a lot could be said.
Yeah, well, if that's all you want to share about yourself, you know, you know, if I'm introducing myself, I would talk a little more. Well, in addition to what you said, maybe, you know, what you like, your likes and your dislikes. But anyway, the focus is not so much on who you are, but what you have to share with us tonight. So, but let me just say, Riquen, that you have 4 daughters and 1 son. I have 4 sons and 1 daughter. So that's a kind of flip. I don't know, you know, why the Lord allowed it to be this way, but God has purpose in all of us, and he does things for a reason. All right. So I just, yes, as you were talking there, I just made that connection. I call it a connection. 4 and 1 and 4 and 1. All right. We both have 5 children. And so, you know, but kindred spirit, we both love the Lord. And I believe we're both called by God to do what we're doing. So, Riquen, what I would like you to do is perhaps remind us of some of the things that we talked about last week, and then we will continue.
Sure, absolutely. So one of the things that we sought to establish very early is the need to go back to the foundation where this thing started. Because it's very easy for us to come up with a list of qualities or attributes that we would want in a woman, right? That's easy. But we need to lay the foundation upon which those blocks would rest. And so we identified that it was God who, in the beginning, made man. So he made the male man first, and then he gave man an assignment. The man fulfilled the assignment, and there was no help for him. And so God decided that, you know what, it's not good for this man to be helpless, right? Even though Adam was created perfect, he was helpless. And so God decided, listen, I need to help this guy. Help him do what? Help him achieve the purpose that I have created him for. And when we look at Genesis chapter 1, the mandate that was given, or the blessing that was pronounced. So in Genesis chapter 5, it says God created them, male and female. In the image of God created he, him, male and female created he them, and blessed them and called their name Adam, or mankind. So the blessing that was conferred was upon them, the male and the female. It wasn't just the man that was blessed, because for the blessing to work, they needed to be together, right? So it was God's idea to make a helper that was meet or suitable. And so we've made the point that for every man who wants to be in a long-term relationship, you want to get married, etc., you want to have a family and so on, it is vitally important that you find your suitable helper, not just a helper, but a suitable helper. And so we kind of want to kick things off in terms of the whole issue of suitability, because that's what this topic seeks to address. What is suitable for you as a man? And clearly, what may be suitable for me may not be suitable for George, may not be suitable for Noel, may not be suitable for any other man outside there. So it's important then that the man knows, or we as men know, what suits us.
Indeed.
We got to know what suits us, right? And so that requires a level of self-knowledge.
Absolutely.
Man know thyself, right? So we got to know ourselves. We got to know, as Professor would have alluded to, our likes, our dislikes, the things that turn us on, that turn us off, that we enjoy doing, our strengths, weaknesses. And so, as I mentioned, strengths and weaknesses, I want to suggest that we can do as men, and as a matter of fact, all of us, we can engage in a strategic planning process that in the business world is called a SWOT analysis. A SWOT analysis. And SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So, as a man, I would encourage us, as men, I would encourage us, do your own SWOT. Do a personal analysis of yourself. What are your strengths? What are you good at? What are you natural at? What are you excellent at? What can you do almost effortlessly? What are those things that set you apart, that distinguish you from other guys? And then what are your weaknesses? And we could identify weaknesses at different levels. So we could identify weaknesses in terms of physically. I mean, you may want to put on a little more mass, get a little more buff. Maybe you have a tummy that is preventing you from seeing your feet, and you want to work on that. You know, you may have mental weaknesses, emotional weaknesses, spiritual weaknesses. So it's important that as we engage in that exercise, that we are honest with ourselves. Let me reiterate. Honesty is still the best policy, but it begins with us as individuals, being honest with ourselves. And don't cheat. Don't cheat when it comes to your weaknesses. You have a long list of strengths, but yeah, a short list of weaknesses, you know. And even if the list of weaknesses, is longer than that of strengths, don't be disheartened, because we can work on our weaknesses and turn them into strengths. So I will kind of pause there. I don't know if any of you guys want to make a contribution at this point.
Yeah, well, yeah, I hear you, and I agree with you 100%. As you were talking about suitability, I am thinking about the fact that if, let's say, Riquen, you were a tailor, and I say, Riquen, I want you to get a suit for me. I want to wear a suit. Make me a suit. I would need to know, and if I don't know, then I would need to have you measure me. What are the measurements? What would fit me? Because you can't just make a suit unless you're the man that Lord Nelson was talking about, who see a man on a corner, make him a suit.
Yeah, and make the suit for him.
Yeah, unless you're that kind of tailor. But, for me, I need to know my measurements. I need to know, arm length and the shoulder length and that thing, the pants waist and that. So I need to know what are my measurements so that I could get something that suits me. Right now, for those of you who are watching on FBN TV or Isaac from his Facebook page, I have on a t-shirt here. You may not be able to see the entire thing because as Riquen was talking, some of us need to get rid of this middle section so we could see our feet. So I'm glad that I'm in a sitting position. But I'm wearing one of the t-shirts, the Revival t-shirts. And many people ordered t-shirts. And they had to tell us whether they wanted medium, large, extra large, because it had to suit them. We couldn't just send a t-shirt for them. I had to look at the t-shirt to see You know, this is what I'm wearing a large, so I could have said, well, look, I want a large because that is what suits me. So I hear it and I get it when you say that, you know, man, know thyself. You can't be looking for a helper, get any old helper, and that is what a lot of men are looking for. That's why, you know, men get themselves in trouble because they want too much help. They're looking for too many helpers, like Solomon. But we have to understand that there's a helper for us, for each one of us that suits us, that would fit, that would fit, that would fit. So I hear you when you talk about suitability. Amen. George, I don't know if you have anything to
Yes. Well, oh yes, yes indeed. Because you know, when I think about it, I mean, Trinidad and Tobago Riquen is a very good and dear friend of mine. He's like a brother to me. I'm also in my 40s, and unlike my brother, I don't have any children. Now, I love children. Once upon a time, I was a teacher. But when you're assessing your strengths and your weaknesses, Trinidad and Tobago, this is one thing that I want you to bear in mind. As you fit yourself, you may see within yourself certain things that you may consider weaknesses, but you are constructed for a specific purpose. You are constructed with a specific purpose in mind, in the mind of the master. And so even sometimes the things that you may highlight as a weakness may be given to you for the purpose for which you are suited. Not all of us are suited for certain purposes. And that does not mean that our purpose is any less than our brothers, but it just means that we are built and constructed to function in a different area. So in knowing yourself and in understanding yourself and in being honest with yourself, bear in mind that you have been specially and wonderfully made by our Lord and Savior for a specific purpose. So even though Riquen's purpose may not necessarily be mine, it does not mean that my purpose is less in value than my brother Riquen. And I'll hand back over to you, Riquen, with that thought.
Well, before Riquen talks, I want to say thank you, George, because I'm looking now at my tummy and I'm saying maybe it's a reason why it's like this, you know, maybe I have a special purpose. I'm just kidding.
Amen, so much, amen, absolutely.
Thank you, George. Thank you, George. Riquen, over to you.
Yes, he has been his brother's keeper there. So as we continue the discussion, in business, there is, when one wants to embark on a project or an investment, there's something that is done that is called due diligence. And depending on the type of business, there's also something called a feasibility study. And these are terms that are applicable to what we're talking about. Now, when we speak of due diligence, in law, due diligence refers to the care that a reasonable person exercises to avoid harm to other persons or their property, right? And we could look at that with a finer tooth comb, because at the end of the day, when we get into this arrangement with a partner, we want to avoid harm. And, you know, it's quite possible that we could find ourselves causing harm or causing pain like Jabez. And we want to minimize that, right? So that's important to note. And in the area of business, due diligence refers to research and analysis of a company or organization done in preparation for a business transaction, such as a corporate merger or purchase of securities. So it's research and analysis that is done in preparation for a transaction. And so when it comes to the whole issue of determining the suitability of a woman to be a wife, essentially what you got to do is due diligence. What we're looking to see is whether this person or this individual is what we call wife material. And not just anybody wife, but my wife material. So some guys might like corduroy. some might like English shooting. Some might like I don't know, help me.
Riquen, you're giving away age when you talk about corduroy.
Boy.
I'm not even sure if we still have corduroy. I'm not even sure. I haven't seen that in a long time.
Oh gosh.
Wow, I haven't even heard that word in so long. Corduroy.
Perhaps it may be making a return.
Perhaps. But we know what you're talking about. Different types of material. Yeah, I hear you.
Correct.
So cotton and linen and wool and flax and all these things. I understand.
Right, and polyester and whatever.
Polyester. Yeah, terylene. Right. If you know what that is.
Well,
maybe before your time. Terylene.
Probably. I know about gabardine.
Yeah, gabardine as well. But it was terylene. I used to wear terylene shirts when I was going to primary school. But let's move on. I don't want to give I don't want to date myself. Go ahead, Riquen.
Okay. So we're looking there for the issue of due diligence. Diligence. And in order for this to happen, so we look at the word research and we look at analysis. And what often happens with us is that we allow our emotions to cloud our ability to analyze and to cloud the extent to which we are prepared to research. I don't know if that makes sense. So we see someone and it's like, wow, this person catch my eye. I like this person. And then we begin in hot pursuit without establishing, okay, does this person meet my criteria? Do they qualify?
Amen.
In terms of what I am looking for, what I want, what I desire as a help for me, as a partner for me. And if we are brutally honest, as men, those of us who have had the experience of marriage, I would say the majority of us did not engage in that type of exercise. And as a result, we've encountered some challenges. We've encountered some problems. Some of us, we've been able to kind of work it out as we go along, and some of us have not been as fortunate. And so the union was dissolved. It didn't last. All right. So what we aiming to do is make ourselves first, and then the one that we want to partner with, ensure that there's that compatibility and that complementability, if that is a word, the ability to complement, right? And by complement, we don't necessarily mean complete. Remember, Adam was a whole man when God made him. He wasn't missing anything. And last week I alluded to, you remember the analogy with the fraction and the whole numbers.
Yes.
And I think as simple as it is, it's a profound analogy, because many of us enter into the arena of marriage as fractions. We enter broken. We enter with parts and pieces missing. And then we want the other person to complete us. I want to suggest that we desist from referring to our spouses as our better half. Because that's not God's plan. That's nowhere in God's vocabulary. Your spouse is not your better half. He or she is a whole person, or is designed to be a whole person. So when you come together to be fruitful and you start to multiply, and we're not just talking multiply in terms of reproduction, but we're talking about that synergy that happens when we begin to flow and function together, when we begin to work together, when we put our minds together and our hearts together. The product of that, it is more than the sum of its parts. All right, George, I see you unmuted.
It's all good. I'm just thinking while you're speaking, and I wanted to put this question to you since last week. Now, on the other side of the coin, when we're thinking about marriage and compatibility, there is a situation of the arranged marriage where a number of our parents or grandparents engaged in being paired together because of an arrangement that their parents would have made with the parents of the bride. And what I've long observed about these arranged marriages is that they actually last. You know, now at the end of the day, I don't have statistical facts to support that, but it's just my humble layman's observation that even without a compatibility check of oneself next to one's partner, a number of these relationships thrive and endure for lifetimes. You know, you hear of a number of these arranged marriages surviving well beyond 25 years, 30 years, you know. So in terms of those perspectives, because I do believe there are still families that engage in this practice, in terms of that type of mindset, how can a man, a young man who may be aligned to an arranged marriage, do these assessments? How can he do his own SWOT check, so to speak?
All right. Well, I don't know if you're going to tackle that, Riquen, but let me just say that certain ethnicities, certain cultures engage in that sort of practice where marriages are arranged. And true, again, I don't have, like George, I don't have statistics, but a lot of them do work because that research and analysis is not done by the individual, but by the parents. So parents would seek out for them what is best for their son, what is best for their daughter, and there are arrangements that are made. Now, it happened even in the Old Testament days. We saw where you had to marry within your own culture. God told them that. Remember that Abraham sent his servant to get a son for his son Isaac, and he had to journey back to their hometown to get that. So absolutely, a lot of the arranged marriages do work, but you have to remember, George, that we do live in the 21st century. We live in a different culture. It doesn't change marriage, but what it changes is the ancillary parts, the things surrounding marriage. For example, that same research and analysis, now more emphasis is placed on the man himself finding a wife. And the scripture says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing. So more emphasis is placed on the man finding a wife now than his parents finding a wife for him. So that is why now he has to do that research and that analysis. He has to know, you know, himself and what is compatible. In those days and in those cultures, your parents determined that. And because of that, and because of that, and because you existed in that culture and in that environment, you accepted that. So that your emotion didn't factor so much into the equation. So whether you love or you didn't love, that did not carry as much weight as what was planned by your parents. Now, as I said, we live in the 21st century, we live in the Western world, and you know, it's a different kettle of fish. Okay, so that there are no the arranged marriages. Could you imagine, George, your mother come and say to you, George, I have a girl for you. She lives in
It's happened before.
Right? Imagine how you would feel, George. Imagine how you would feel if that.
Oh yes,
if that
absolutely, absolutely.
All right. So
yes,
I think as a man, you should have the option, the choice, the authority, the ability to choose your spouse.
yes.
To choose your spouse. You need to know the characteristics. That's what we're doing tonight, looking at what is a good partner. And that also forces you, even as Riquen said, to know yourself. Because you have to know what help you need so that you know who to look for.
Because I do know that within our listenership, there just may be that young man who is faced with that situation, faced with that circumstance, and he's listening to what we have to share this evening. And he may be thinking to himself, he may be feeling to himself that I'm excluded from this because of my cultural upbringing, because of what exists within my family. So I made the point because of the fact that even he has to know himself, even he has to come to that place where he does his own personal SWOT check in spite of the prearrangement of his parents, the prearrangement of his family. So even if someone like that is listening to us, there can still be value that you can draw from what we are sharing this evening. So that is what I would like to humbly insert there. You are not excluded. This includes each and every one who is listening to what we are sharing here tonight.
Just to remind folks, if you now join us, you're listening to Men Talk on Isaac 98.1 FM, The Promise, also our YouTube channel, which is FBN TV, our Facebook page, which is Isaac The Promise. We want to say thank you to our sponsor. This program is sponsored by the Feet Lady, Anaya Tony, the lady who does reflexology. And we say thank you to our sponsor. And our guest tonight is Riquen Allen. Riquen, back over to you.
Sure. So one of the things that came to mind even as George raised that question is the whole issue of commitment. Relationships work because of commitment, not because of love. Now that may sound controversial, but here's the reality. In our minds, love has certain connotations, right? So when people get married, okay, the man loves the woman and vice versa. When marriage hit the rocks, and it's like water more than flour. One of the questions that is asked is, you still love the man? Now, what does that really mean? What I have come to discover, and this is just my theory, so you don't have to subscribe to it, but I would say don't get married for love, because many of us really don't know what love is until it is tested. So we feel love, or we feel in love, but when the rubber hits the road, what love truly is what is described in 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Love is patient, love is kind, love envieth not, it vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up. These are the kind of attributes and characteristics that both parties should possess, both male and female. So, if we want to start with a list, is the woman patient? Are you patient as an individual? Are you kind? Is she kind? And these are things that are observable. Now, it would take time to observe these things, which brings us to the point that the analysis and the research that we're talking about cannot be rushed. If we have to make an informed decision, a wise decision, We can't rush the analysis. Now, some people would tell you, they, they would tell you the Lord showed them. The Lord showed them, you know, that is my spouse and so on. Now, let us just assume that is the case, right? Okay. You don't go and marry the person the next day.
Hallelujah.
Because there still has to be a preparation for the two of you all to get to know each other, to see what your tolerance levels are. When she started to display some weaknesses, can you tolerate those weaknesses? Can you live with that? You understand? Can you endure that for a lifetime? Because you're going into this thing, and this is an area where a lot of us fall short. We go into marriage hoping either that the other party will change or that we will change the other party. And I think we've mentioned this before. Do not go into marriage with that mindset and that mentality, because you're giving yourself work and possible headache and heartache. Fix the things that need fixing up front.
Mm.
Making sense?
Making a lot of sense. But you know, I want to come back to something you said. I understand why you said it, but if we analyze what you say, it's also always sound like a contradiction. And let me explain what I mean. You said don't get married for love, and yet you describe love, what love really is. But these are the things, these are the attributes that you would want in a spouse: the patience and the kindness, right? So those are the things that you want in your marriage. I think the kind of love you're talking about when you say don't get married for love is that emotional aspect of love, where we see somebody that eros love, where we see somebody and we are clouded by how, you know, how they make our heart skip a beat or make our heart race, or some people say the palms sweating and you can't do it. Butterflies and texting you every minute and that kind of thing. And all that
sounds more like a medical condition than affection.
Yeah. And the thing is, that is what we call love. That's what we call, and that is what we should not get married for. That feeling that we get, because feelings can change. Situation causes feelings to change, and even people change as well. They change physically, they change in other ways. And if you can endure that, now you said something about commitment. Marriage is commitment, and I agree with that 100%. Because with all the changes that will take place over the years, you have to be committed, because there are times when, I tell you, there are times when the person that is in front of you, you don't want to see them for some reason, even if it's just for the moment. There are times in your marriage when, you know, it gets a little bit toxic. I don't want to I use that word for want of a better word, because toxicity is really a serious thing. But there are times when you don't always agree. You don't always see eye to eye. You don't always see the same things. You have to understand that it's at those times, even when you don't feel love or you don't feel the butterflies anymore, you have made a commitment to the person, the spouse, and you've made a commitment to God that you're going to stick it out, that you're going to endure the rough times. That's why we say for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer. And I agree with you 100%, Riquen. It is a commitment. Commitment means that things may be good today and bad tomorrow and good the next time. You know, it's up and down. That's how life is. If if everything was in a straight line, we know that's when you're dead.
Yes.
When the monitor is in a straight line, but when it goes up and down, you're alive. So I want to endorse what you said about marriage being a commitment to stay the course, a commitment to, even though I don't agree with you now and I don't even like you at the moment. For the moment, that's a temporary thing. And I know you don't like me at the moment because you don't like what I just did. but or maybe I should say that you don't like what I just did, or I don't like what you just did, but I'm committed. I'm committed. Even though I see another woman who physically she prettier than you, or you see another man that he's good looking, better looking than your husband, but you made a commitment. So don't be distracted. Don't be distracted because you made a commitment, and that's what marriage is about. So I just wanted to endorse what you said, Riquen, about commitment.
Professor, I love what you said, and I was hoping that you would have gone a little further with something that you started just now, because some way, somehow during the marriage, I think that yes, I was saying some way, somehow during the marriage, the couple seem to zone out when they hear in sickness and in health. Let me tell you something. Sickness is one of those things that puts love to the test. It is where the rubber really hits the road. And you notice with a number of relationships, this is where the relationship goes through the testing, and where those that are truly successful survive, and those that are not fall by the wayside. Because we tend not to think, when we're seeing that beautiful, handsome, youthful face in front of us, that sickness would ever come to that body. That body may be ravished to the point where we will now have to care for that person. And a number of times we find that in sickness, a number of relationships fall by the wayside, because this was not part of the plan. No one can plan for sickness. No one can plan for illness. I would go back to that accident that you had, Professor. When you woke up the morning, you never in your wildest dreams would have thought that something like that would have happened. And so we need to understand that I would say to your statement, Riquen, that it takes much more than love for you to consider when getting into marriage. It takes much more than the consideration of just that eros love for you to say, this is someone that I'm going to commit to for the rest of my life. And I'll bring in a little something here to address to you, Brother Riquen. This is one of the reasons why I personally do not support so much the dating of Christian couples. Dating is a thing where you get the opportunity to see the person at their best. When you are looking at marriage, you need to be able to envision the person at their worst or at their lowest, to determine whether or not this is something that you're prepared to go into, and this is someone that you're prepared to stick by at that point in time. Anyone can stick around when they see someone at their best, at their most successful, at their prime. But marriage is a commitment that takes you through, as Professor correctly said, the high peaks and the deep low valleys. So in dating, it kind of gives you a bit of a disillusion of what marriage is really about. And I don't know if you can add to that, Brother Riquen.
All right.
Let me hear you tackle that one, Riquen.
Oh, Lord. Okay. So first, I want to go back and thank you for the clarification, Professor, when I made reference to love. So I'm not talking about the agape love. I'm talking about that emotional love that we think is love and that we get married for. Let's be honest. When we say, I love she, or I love he, or I love him, more often than not, that is the type of love we are referring to. We feeling love, right? But the reality is that in most cases, that love is not tested before the marriage. In most cases, in many cases, right? It's not tested before. And so, if I could draw upon my own experience, and, as George mentioned, the marriage vows, for better, for worse. for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, till death do us part, right? I got to realize that, you know what? More than the average person who says that vows, really and truly, because this is your special day. This is the happiest day of your life. You're not thinking about sickness. You're not thinking about worse. You're not thinking about poorer, and you're certainly not thinking about death. And the reality I've discovered, many of us enter into the marriage arena with unrealistic expectations. We do not cater for the fact that life happens. We say it in the vows, you know, but in our minds, we do not make a provision mentally for those eventualities, many of us, right? So in my own particular case, I got married at age 22. And am I correct? Was it 22? Wow.
The wife is listening, right? We can.
20. I got married at the age of 24, actually. All right, 24.
I hope you didn't get married in Corduroy.
No, sir. So I would have gone through, you know, the whole process of divorce and so on and so forth. 4 years later, we had 4 children. But in the period of time before that 4-year period, my wife became ill. And she deteriorated in her health until eventually she passed away. And at age 29, I was a widower with 4 young children under the age of 5. And I remember times having to physically lift up my wife. And those who know me know what I would have experienced, right? Because she was immobile, right? I remember having to cook, to bathe, to lift, etc., etc., etc. And if mentally I was not prepared for that eventuality, I could have done what others have done in the past and leave her and abandon her in that situation. There are some people, when worse come, when poorer come, when sickness come, they bail out. And the men that we are addressing, I am sure they do not want their woman to bail out on them. They want a woman who would remain committed even when they are at their low. Now, if that is what they want, then they should be prepared to do the same. Because at the end of the day, our responsibility to love as Christ loved the church and gave himself for her. So the responsibility of the man is to give himself for his wife and for his family in terms of making the sacrifices and so on. The responsibility of the woman is in response, she gives herself to him. And that's what submitting means, giving yourself to your husband. The husband, we give ourselves for. The wife gives herself to. And so, let me dovetail into something. It is vitally important, it is critical that as men and as women, we have a healthy and high view of one, ourselves. So, Mr. Man, you want to ensure that the person you're interested in as a long-term partner has a healthy view and perception and perspective of herself. You want to ensure that she is mentally and emotionally secure and stable. She's not always looking for I need to be careful how I say this. You know, it has some wives or some women, they almost nagging in their desire for affirmation because they have a low sense of self-esteem.
Amen.
Right. That is not the kind of woman you want. That is not the kind of wife you want. You want a wife who is secure in herself, who understands who she is, who understands her strengths, but also understands her weaknesses, who understands, who has a strong sense of identity, who has a sense of emotional and mental wholeness, who is not battered and broken and has not been healed or is not well on the way to healing, because that could pose a problem in the marital relationship. It could be draining and straining on you as a man, and the same applies. There's a vice versa. So the both man and woman should have a healthy view of themselves as individuals. They should have a healthy view of each other, and by each other, the woman should have a healthy view of men on the whole, because you find there are some women who subscribe to the view that, you know, men is dogs. They're looking to get married, you know, but subconsciously there is a perception, because of whatever they may have experienced in their past, that, you know, men is dogs and they're wicked and whatever. And if they have not been healed from those wounds and from those damages, and they haven't released themselves of that baggage, it will be a problem in the marriage. Suspect you want to say something, Professor?
No, I'm listening, and I hear you, and I agree with you 100%, because there are some women who have the wrong perspective of men. As you said, some women think that men are dogs, and that is you know, they would have heard that growing up. They would have heard that in their environment, maybe in their family, and yet, you know, they still get married to men. There are some women also who get into marriage thinking that, well, men are men, yes, they'll cheat anyway. They'll have another woman anyway. And so they accept infidelity in their marriage. Maybe they saw it with their own parents and in their environment. So they accept that as normal. And again, too, that is a distorted perception of what a man is. So, you know, what we have to do is present what a man is supposed to be. You know, who a man is, so women should know. Because as we are looking at the attributes or the qualities that we need to find in a woman, women should also know the kind of man that that they can help, or they should partner with. Okay, so I hear you, because there's a lot of distortion with regards to who we are, who is a man, who is a woman, who's a good man and who's a good woman. But even as I say that, I wanted to, maybe not now, but George, I want to tackle you, you know. I want to tackle you on this dating thing. I want to find out, if not dating, then what? Not now. I'm just giving the heads up, because we become, maybe not in this program even tonight, right? But George, I want you to think about that particular question. If not dating, then what? How do we get to know? How do we do that RNA, the research and analysis?
Now, before you move on, what I want to make clear is dating in the perception that young Christians have dating today. I'm not talking about group dating. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about.
Don't defend it yet, George. I'll give you a chance to present the case. Don't defend it yet. Don't defend it yet. But
Fair enough.
As I say that, we want to let folks who are now joining us, and we want you to understand that this is Men Talk on Isaac 98.1 FM, The Promise. Also on FBN TV or YouTube channel. You can tune in on Isaac The Promise, our Facebook page. You can send in your comments. We want to let you know it's also an interactive program. So we're going to open up the lines now to take your calls and to take your comments. Remember, I don't think I said it at the top. In case you're new to the program, we only take calls from the men. Yes, I think I did say it. We take calls from men only. Ladies, you can interact with us by sending us a WhatsApp, not a voice note, but a text message to our WhatsApp number, which is 275-1981. Men, during the conversation now, the numbers to call are 480-4121, 480-4121, and 463-7208. 463-7208. You've been listening to the conversation so far, and you have a comment to make or question to ask. We want you to feel free to call us now, and we will stop as soon as we get a call. We will stop and address your concern or your question. Again, let me give you the numbers: 480-4121, 480-4121, and 463-7208.
Professor, we have a call.
We have a call. Okay. Hello. Good evening.
Hello. Good evening.
Good evening, Professor.
Good evening.
George and the real puzzle. Because for Christians and married, we must date. That is our number one priority. You must date to know the George and the real puzzle.
Okay, well, I'm glad you guys got it. I missed it a little bit. Maybe I have too much background noise here. But could somebody just enlighten me as to what was said there?
I will. No, I will. That's just it. It's talking about certain aspects of dating, but as promised, the defense will rest until the prosecution delivers the case.
Oh, okay.
The defense will rest.
Thank George. That's
Definitely.
Again, the numbers are 480-4121 and 463-7208. Do we have another call?
No, not at the moment.
No, okay, not at the moment. So we'll continue the discussion while we wait on another call. All right, but yes, Riquen. So I want you to continue where we left off, and
right. So we were saying that the woman must have, or you're intended, the person that you're interested in, you're looking at as a future partner, must have a healthy sense of self. She must have a healthy sense of man or men on the whole, and a healthy view and a high view of the institution of marriage. There are a lot of people, a lot of us, we get into marriage, but we don't have a high view of marriage. We don't, and why I say that is because it is easy for divorce talk to come up. It's easy for separation talk to come up. And when we start to talk like that, it suggests that you're like getting really too serious about this thing called marriage. If so early in the game, you're prepared to bring up that talk. I don't know if I'm connecting with us on that point.
Professor, Professor, just to add something. We don't have a call at the moment, but just to add into, well, just to add a question in there, and not to sound like I'm going against, but I think it helps for discussion's sake. There are so many women who don't come out of ideal homes. They come out of situations, fatherless situations. They come out of situations of many broken homes, and many and because of fatherlessness, they've had to rally with their mother, so they become very strong, or they become very needy because of a father figure or a male figure. So I'm saying it sounds like a point to say that if we as men seek to look and say, well, the person must have this and must have that, who will we really one, who will we marry, one, and two, who will marry these people? Because if we really analyze a lot of the people who have made up our wives, they come with all these issues that society has put upon them, And you know how if everybody say we must have this person, really and truly those people will be left behind. That's a point in make you may want to respond to that.
Yeah, indeed.
Sure, no problem. So what I would say is that you see when knowledge comes, we are responsible for the knowledge that we have. So there was a WhatsApp a message circulating recently that says something to the effect that now when you're looking to get married, you need to find out about um, medical history, financial history, past partners, the list of things that you need to discuss in order to conduct this due diligence. I don't know if any of us have seen that I think it's been
circulating.
Yes, so there are you see, back in the day, there weren't many considerations, but now there are so many different ramifications in the mix that are worthy of consideration. And so, if, for example, we as individuals, we engage in that SWOT analysis, right? And we meet each other and we have an interest. You see, one of the first things we must lay as a foundation and a platform, you see, honesty. You see, honesty. And this kind of harks back to what George was saying. Many relationships were built on a facade. Many relationships were built on appearances. Many relationships were built on a showing my best, a giving my best, a putting out my best, a putting my best foot forward. So there was a lot of cover up of stuff, a lot of hiding of stuff. And we did not come out with, hey, listen, this is who I am. This is my weakness. I just look at other women. You have a problem with that, then it's something that needs to be addressed. Of course, the man has to address it too, because, I mean, no woman would feel secure knowing that her intended has an issue when it comes to looking at other women. That's a matter that he has to work on. And she reserves the right to say, hey, listen, until you deal with this matter, I'm not prepared to marry you. And we have to establish honesty, openness very early in the game. Too many of us, we enter into marriage with hidden stuff, and it's only in the marriage it comes out, it shows up. And how do we feel? We feel betrayed. We feel hugely disappointed. And when we're supposed to be building, we now having to deal with spills and mess and that sort of stuff. So we would do ourselves a huge favor. Nothing is wrong with having the baggage, But you see, hiding your baggage or pretending that it's not there. And then when you get inside, it's like, hey, I forget to tell you, but so and so and so on. I have a daughter, with so and so and no, that doesn't augur well at all. So, gentlemen, you want a woman who can be open and honest with you as much as possible. And you, by extension, should also present yourself as being open and transparent. Listen, we have to reach a place where we are willing and prepared to be rejected enough. And that is one of the issues that has kept or caused a lot of probably bad marriages, because we were so afraid to be rejected by this person that we pretend and hide for fear of not being accepted, because we did not have the mindset that, hey, listen, if this person is not the one for me, then there is somebody else who is for me. And we cannot be so desperate that anybody show us interest, we're ready to hook up. No. And all these things go back to the whole issue of having a strong sense of self. When you know who you are and you know why you are, then there are certain things that is like, okay, you know what, you don't meet the criteria. It was a pleasure knowing you, but we can't continue at this level. And you move on. You get the feelings out of the way and you move on. Because if there is someone there for you, then in due course, you will find your good thing.
Amen. Amen. Wonderful.
Amen.
I also want to add, even in response to what Adesola brought up. We're not looking for perfection. We are not saying this is a list of basic criteria and you must fit into that. There's something called potential. You must know if there is potential there for that person to grow into what you think is an ideal spouse for you. And you must know what you want. So you start off with the basics. This is what I want in a spouse. She may not possess it at this time, but she can grow into it because this is what I believe God is saying for me. And, and vice versa, some women want a knight in shining armor. And they don't realize that they might be the one to help shine the armor. The armor might be dusty and rusty, but you are supposed to help me to become a knight in shining armor. So what we're looking for is not a completed person, and understand what I say that in inverted commas. We're not talking about a half a person. We're not talking about what Riquen was talking about. I'm talking about someone who is not yet complete in who they are. And that's why you come together, so that you can grow. We will both grow as we commit to each other and commit to the marriage. We will grow into the persons that God wants us to be. It's like going for a job. You don't go in there and expect to be the CEO one time. You go and you start off at a position, but you must see potential for growth within the organization for you to say, yes, I'm taking this job. And this is what we're looking for in the woman. There are certain basic attributes that we want that, we what they call them, boy, I forgot the terminology. But for example, I am not going after anybody who doesn't love the Lord. My spouse, at the basic, must be somebody who recognizes that Jesus Christ is Lord and loves him and wants to do more. That's the basic. I don't want to be unequally you, because when you start off bad, you end up bad. It's like putting on a shirt and you put the first button in the wrong hole, everything else will be in the wrong place. So you need to start off with the basics. And that's what we're looking at. We're looking at the attributes. We need to know what we want if we are to move forward. So I can't go and apply for a job in a company if I just want a job. No, I need to know what job I want. I need to know what I'm headed for. I need to know what I have the ability, right? Because I can't go and apply to be an engineer. I'm not qualified as an engineer. So I can't go. So I need to know my qualities. I need to know what the company is offering, and we will build from there. It's all about building. It's all about starting off at, make sure we have the foundation and we build on that. So basically that's what I'm saying in terms of answering Adesola's question. It's not so much that, hey, these are the qualities, and if you don't meet them, if you don't meet this criteria, then it's out. I don't think that's what we're saying, and I don't think that's what we want at all, because we will end up being alone. Well, trust me, we will end up being alone. Okay, it's 9:20, folks. We have 10 more minutes or less than that to take your question. 5 minutes to take your question, and we have 5 minutes to wrap up. So again, the numbers are 480-4121, 480-4121, 463-7208, 463-7208, and ladies, 275-1981. Okay, so we only have about 5 more minutes. Is there anything else you want to add to it, Riquen?
Sure. Well, there's a lot more that can be added, but I want to piggyback on what you said just now. So one of your criteria is the woman must love the Lord, right? And there are a lot of women who you would hear say, my husband must love God more than me. I'm sure.
Yes, I've heard that. I've heard that. Yes. Yes.
I'm sure you all have heard that. But what does that mean? What does that look like? You see, we say these things, you know, my wife must love God and so on. And you know, my husband must love God more than me. And when when certain things start to happen, you start to, yeah, you understand? You question and you wonder. So even when it comes to terms like love God, you have to be clear, what does love God look like? What does that look like? And when we look at Proverbs chapter 31, it's interesting that it says, I think it says beauty is deceptive and charm is fleeting or something like that. But the woman who fears the Lord, she is to be praised. You see that? Fears the Lord. If I have to pick an attribute, a spiritual attribute, I would go with that. And even that needs to be understood. What does it mean to fear God? But obviously, it means you have a reverential awe and respect for God, and it is reflected in your mannerisms. It's reflected in your conduct. It's reflected in how you relate to your appearance. So, Mr. Man, how does the woman treat with her father? How does she treat with her siblings? How does she treat with her mother? Because guess what? We just say we love, but habits are stronger than love. And if you're in the habit of mistreating, who say that because the one you love reach on the scene, you will suddenly stop that habit? It don't work so. We are creatures or creations of habit. So as a man, what we need to be doing is paying attention to habits, making observations. Okay, so how is she interacting with family? How is she interacting with her friends? Is she loyal? Does she have a strong sense of loyalty? How does she speak about her friends? Does she engage in gossip and that sort of, you know, these are red flags. These are red flags. You don't want a woman who tongue loose, because the same way she could be loose about other people, she could be loose about you. She might come down on the walk when you start to quote unquote give trouble and embarrass you on the walk. You don't want that kind of woman. You want a woman who is wise. One who knows when to speak, how to speak, where to speak, and we could go on and on and on. So I don't know if the intention is for us to continue, but
let me just say, Riquen, sorry to cut you, that we're not done. We're not done. We have to continue this topic. We have to continue, because I think we're helping people, even though the men are not calling them, but I know they're taking notes, but it's physical notes or mental notes. And so I would want to continue with this topic if you're available. We will continue talking about it, because I don't think we could exhaust this topic at all. Let me just clarify one thing, as you said, when I talk about love the Lord, maybe I should have said it earlier. I'm talking about someone who's born again, someone who knows God. That is what I meant when I said that. So that we will not be unequally yoked, because we start off wrong sometimes. We want to get the person saved after. You know, we love them so much, you know, so we marry them and we know, we tell them as a man, you know, you have to come to church with me and you have to do this. And we expect that they will get saved after. And so that's what I was talking about. There are certain non-negotiables. That's the term I was looking for before. There are certain non-negotiables, all right? And we get ourselves into all sorts of problems, even marrying people of different religions sometimes, because, you know, we love. And this is what I was talking about. But we have to end here. We will continue next week, God's willing, on this topic. George will also get a chance to defend himself, because I want to say, George, let me just say so that you can come prepared. Here's the prosecution, and you can come with the defense. When I think of dating, I am not just thinking about going out and, those fancy restaurants or going around the savannah for doubles. I'm talking about interacting with potential in-laws, your family, you're doing your research and analysis. Because how will you know how this person treats their parent? How will you know what kind of relationship they have with the siblings? How will you know these things unless you have some? So all that to me is part of dating. It is not just going out. It's going in sometimes too. But Josh, you get an opportunity. You get an opportunity to provide your defense. Okay? So
I feel George wants to withdraw. I feel you want to withdraw.
Not at all, not at all. The defense is just patiently waiting, because you see, that's just the thing about it. I did not want it to be misinterpreted what I was alluding to. But nevertheless, next week, please God, the defense will clear and verify itself.
Yes, listen, we'll call that George for today, all right? So, Riquen,
absolutely.
A minute to wrap up, Riquen.
Okay. So, what can we say? I think I will summarize by saying that it is important that we conduct due diligence. And due diligence is not a hurry exercise. It is something that requires thought, it requires planning, and it definitely requires effort. And so let's not shortchange ourselves by bypassing that process.
Amen. George?
Amen. Yes, I would appeal to the couples that would be listening, or parts of couples that are listening. It is not too late to sit down and have a real heart-to-heart about the things that matter towards your marriage. Don't just take it for granted that love will carry you through. Don't just take it for granted that, we have a good thing going for now and it will last for 35 years. Make sure that you prepare yourself for marriage, for life in marriage, and not just for a wedding. Love you, Trinidad and Tobago. Have a wonderful, awesome, God-filled evening.
Thank you, George. And let me just close up by saying that, we are talking about preparation for marriage and looking for a partner. And a lot of men listening right now, even women listening right now, they're probably saying, well, we already married, you're married for all these years. This doesn't help us. I just want to encourage you, our theme song, you're not hearing it in the background, but it says you can start over again. You can start over. Don't think it's too late. Even what we're talking about, the things, the qualities, we can strive towards these things, both men and women. So it's not too late. As long as you're listening to us, it is not too late. We'll probably address, this in more detail as we go along. But I don't want you to think that you are excluded from this conversation that is only for people who are not yet married. It is also, we want to talk to married couples as well, because your marriage can get better. So folks, that's it from Men Talk for this week. I want to say thank you so much for listening, for viewing. Thank you so much to our sponsor, Anaya Tony, the Freak Lady, the lady with the reflexology. And if you want to be a part sponsor of this program, please give us a call at the station, 622-8981. Ask to speak to someone from the marketing department, and they'll tell you how you can become a sponsor of Men Talk, where we can really, really help couples, help the men to be men. So God bless you. Thank you so much for Riquen. Thank you, George. My name is Noel Richards, a.k.a. the Professor. And until next week, on next week, Saturday at 8 o'clock, it's back over to you, Adesola. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Okay, God bless you, Professor.
Bye.
Hey, this is Noel Professor Richards, inviting you to join me every Saturday night at 8 p.m. for Men Talk. We will talk about how to live, how to love, and how to lead. It's 1.5 hours of men talking about all the things that men talk about. So don't miss it. It's Men Talk every Saturday at 8 p.m. on Isaac The Promise Facebook page, FBN TV, and Isaac 98.1 FM, The Promise.
Hello.
Hey, Jack, you missed the meeting yesterday, boy. What happened?
Andrea was under some pressure, boy. Well, uncle have diabetes, high blood pressure, and poor circulation. He couldn't even walk properly yesterday, so I took him to the feet lady, boy, Dr. Tony. And let me tell you something, when they're done with him, he feels so good. You know the man forget he walking stick by them? When I go back for the next session, we'll get back, man.
I must send that number to my cousin. She have a pinched nerve, lupus. And I think she uncle got a stroke, you know. I had to see about my back pain, too.
Well, Andrea, what are you waiting for? Take these numbers down one time. 360-5166 and 478-7416. Dr. Tony, boy, the feet lady from Anaya Health and Wellness Center. You can't go